the markets, establishing places. So we established business schools, but one of the projects I did was I tried to work on privatization of companies, and trying to get the assets in the hands of either private individuals or citizens, or however you wanted to do it, and the environmental area was not taken into account. There was no environmental degradation. The West Germans, the East Germans, basically they could do is say, look, if you take over this asset, so most of it was repatriation, in other words, people coming back who owned it and they gave it back to them, and they said, you're not liable for the environmental problems. You know, how do you know that it was before or after type thing, you know? So nobody bought into that narrative. And so that was when I actually changed completely all the work that I'm doing. So that's kind of my personal story of how I got there and how I tried to change the research that I'm doing. I try to reflect some of those attitudes in the book. Now, what I do want to show you is that I'm going to spend some time on our strategic vision for our sustainability graduate program, because I think it's instructive for what you're trying to do here and doing really well so far. I want to show you some of these other areas that I've worked on. We're going to try to go to the website, and so what you can do is you can go to Rutledge website for those faculty that are interested, and I want to show you some of the things I did. So, you know, they said you have to have, I don't use, unless I'm doing a little something like this, or I don't lose a lot of PowerPoint, so I did that. I want to show you in a minute the teaching manuals, because there's 2 of them in there, and then each of the chapters has the PowerPoint, and then the bank is the test bank, and then I did 38 videos that you can access on each of the chapters. There's 3 for each chapter, and then 2 introductory ones, so 12 chapters, 38 videos. When I go to the teaching manuals, one of the things I tried to do there that might be helpful is I wrote an earlier book on creating effective learning environments, and I was responsible at the business school when I was there at Wake for all the adjuncts. Wake never used adjuncts, never. And all of a sudden, we had some growth. We went to Charlotte, opened programs there. We needed some adjuncts. And so, no offense to the executives that are here, but I always ask, what are you going to do for your second lecture, right? Because a lot of people have trouble sustaining classes, and it's hard. It's hard to do. I think teaching's hard, and they don't realize it until they get into it, those of you who tried it. So this manual was created for how do you teach adults, basically, because most of our programs that we were involved in were for working professionals, but it works well for undergraduates, et cetera. And then, of course, there's the requisite strategic sustainability instructor manual that's there. The reason I show you this is because then, if those of you who are interested in incorporating this into your classes, you can see how I took a discipline and strategy, in this case, because I'm a strategy professor, and incorporated the sustainability work in there, the book, the companion stuff, etc. So what I'd like to do is spend some time now to go back and look a little bit more under the hood about how we designed our program and some suggestions I might have about enriching a program from a sustainability point of view. So one of the things that we did was early on is we had no central model. It wasn't like we had an AACSB or anything of that sort. People don't really know what this animal is really yet, even. I mean, we have sometimes a lot of trouble explaining it to the market. We have to go through a lot of details. So we figured one thing we'll do is we're going to create a little model, and what we can, and you got to understand, this is not like a couple days. This goes over years. We came up with an idea, and it actually is working extremely well, of having levels of analysis about sustainability. Because when I look at my colleagues who are involved, I have 20 different disciplines and almost 30 different faculty teaching in our program, our core courses. We team teach everything. Nothing is single taught. And so, you know, I teach with a chemist, right? I got a humanities and biology professor working together. This ain't easy. I swear, probably spend most of my time now is kind of negotiating how these relationships work. So we decided to do Earth systems. We talk a lot about common human challenges, man's relationship to nature and what that might mean, different attitudes from Asia and US, et cetera, like that, and then move down towards institutional arrangement, organizations, which is the primary focus a lot of times of business schools, and then impacts on you. And we do a lot. Our mission is to create leaders for sustainability. That's what we have. And so this year what we're doing is we're actually working on a leadership model. What does a sustainability leader look like? And so we have our institute out of our business school on leadership, These are two former West Point guys who came back, they're academics, they publish a lot in this area, Sean Hanna and Pat Sweeney. And we're going to go out and develop this leadership model, and then that's what we'll try to create. But it's going to be a combination of those people in leadership and then our sustainability colleagues, and also a lot of practicing sustainability managers, effective ones who can show us about what that is. It's different from a competencies point of view. We're actually working on identity and how you view yourself as a leader. And this is the West Point model, if you will. That's what they've used. We're using a lot. It's been used in industry. And then you can evolve competencies off of that, because ultimately we have to teach something and they have to certify it. So that model actually helps us. And then what we did was we simply designed courses around it. We said, okay, your course has to cover this, your course covers this, your course covers this. We do workshops mostly on individual development, leadership, communication, etc. And then that started to make sense to people about, we can have a little overlap, but this is your main focus. So the model has been extremely helpful to us, particularly as we bring in new faculty members. Then, oops, there we go. Then we have certain components, and by the way, this, Jim, I'll send you this if you can put it on. We have this vision statement that we've taken a long time to develop that'll show you everything that I'm going to talk about in there if you want to download that. But I want to spend some time on, we had the model and we had questions related to the model that we would like people to address in their classes. You know, very more specific questions. These are also questions that people are using in their research. So you can see the relationship between the model and that, what we value and the assumptions we make. We do believe climate change is real. Although we have several people that come into our program. We even have 2 faculty members who are dead set against that attitude and view, and we bring them in and they teach in our program. And it's up to the students, not us, you know, quite frankly. And then we have some learning outcomes. We started with 10 learning outcomes. We're down to 4 because we try to do assurance of learning on them, etc. And those are designed in a way that if we can accomplish those, and the way that we make it concrete for students is we use this, I think it's called education or something like that. It's a portfolio management online tool. And what we ask students to do is take the learning outcomes, at least from the program. In addition to that, take the ones that you're interested in, and then upload everything that you do into those folders, and then create a public site so that when, it's like LinkedIn on steroids type thing, then go ahead and demonstrate that to your employers what you can do. And I find that extremely helpful, because then students are saying, when you got a blank folder, and yet we think we've covered it, and they think they've covered it, and all of a sudden that brings home that maybe you haven't got as far along as you think you have. And so it's a way to make concrete these learning outcomes, which can be actually airy-fairy sometimes and not really as specific as we like it. And it's worked extremely well. Students have used it to get jobs, etc. What I want to do is just show you, I'm just going to end in a few minutes here, and I'd like to have a conversation about it, but I do want to show you, these are our pedagogies that we have decided on. And what is important here is that, I can't tell you, it's a year and a half of that word to come up with that. You know, because everyone wanted multidisciplinary, you know, and they say, well, how can you have, you know, transdisciplinary, it doesn't exist now, and all that. And so the flavor we're trying to do is say, maybe there aren't disciplines that can attack some of these problems. Maybe what we have to do is kind of get people together, talking together, and invent new ways of attacking sustainability problems. So we try to get off this multidiscipline where, okay, chemist, you do your thing, business school, you do your thing, and lawyer, you do your thing, and say, you know, let's work together. Don't define yourself so much as a law professor, define yourself as around the questions that you're asking and the place in the model that you're addressing. And I think that that has helped. It's not, you know, there's some real stubborn faculty, surprise, surprise, and who say, you know, they got to know the stuff, they got to know my discipline and all that, and they're excellent at what they do. But I think that we're giving a flavor at least of what we believe in and what we're trying to push, and that's it. Probably the area we've had the hardest time in has been in the humanities. It doesn't play well with the sciences as well. Although Wake Forest is very forgiving, very easy to get around, it's a little more difficult to get those to play together. I do want to say, though, that One of the, not the criticism, but one of the opportunities for improvement of business schools is the science is sorely lacking in most business schools. And I think that that's one thing that we've been able to realize of incredible value added for our students is they are versed in the science. And even if they are interested in public policy, the humanities side, social sustainability, it's extremely important because they confront people all the time that challenge their perspective, first of all. And so having a science base, having a scientific literacy understanding is important. So we actually have a workshop called Scientific Literacy. And then we also, our communication course is actually how do you make your arguments for your beliefs. That's a very distinct course that we have. And we're not going to tell you what to believe in. What we are going to say, there are some ways that you can go about articulating that. Do a lot of place-based learning. So last year we had a theme in our course. We have themes that go across every course. So we asked all our faculty to address the theme. Last couple of years it was climate change in North Carolina. And it's place-based education. So what we do is a lot of the trips that we take, a lot of the experiential learning, a lot of the companies we work with, we try to make it in North Carolina. Speakers we bring in, then we ask them to actually talk about climate change in North Carolina. This year we took on something and we're struggling with it, I gotta tell you. It's called Nexus and Sustainability. And the idea here is that the way you can see in the vision statement how we write it up, it's don't just talk about energy, physics professor. Talk about energy is related to water and land use, et cetera, and the social implications. And therefore, what we're trying to do is push our faculty, because then the physicist then says, well, I don't know anything about social justice. Well, you got a colleague right here who does. Let's work with them and let's see what we come up with. So we're using some unique case studies. We're using some unique approaches to do that, to try to get people to, but again, it's place-based learning, so there's a lot of focus on North Carolina because that's where we are. So we do trips and stuff like that. We also do some international trips for the experiential learning. We go to the Dominican Republic, we've been to Peru. We're trying to stay, and the practicality of going to Asia is not there for our program. It's a one-year program, et cetera. So we try to tie those, again, my point is we try to tie in these kinds of learnings into our theme that pulls it together, lots of reflections. And then we have something called the T model. I think this is pretty common, right, for business schools, et cetera. And what that means is that if you come in as a chemist or an engineer, so we have a lot of chemists, engineers, AP science teachers who are the best students in the world. And all our people have work experience who come back, right? So they, most of them, we rarely take fifth-year students out of undergraduate. We want them to have some work experience. So when a chemist comes back, they have the T, the T part, the long part of the T, because they already have the depth. And then what we do as a program, try to grow and make them broader. And so I think that's a nice model for somebody to conceptualize what kind of electives do I want to take, how do I want to approach the program as an individual. And then of course we have, I've talked about this before, we have a lot of focus on natural capital, critical thinking. A lot of people have this. We try to challenge assumptions. The way we do it is we bring in all these people who don't believe like we do. We try to bring in an enormous amount of people. We have political debates, we have societal debates, we have a lot of different things. And for example, one of these happened in Belize, where we did a lot of projects with World Wildlife Fund, and we valued natural capital there. They're trying to combat climate change impacts on their coasts, and now they have a program, but they're trying to implement it, and it could mean for the fishermen that they don't have the rights to unlimited fishing. It could mean to the tourism business that you don't have unlimited rights to do things, or you're going to have to contribute to preserving the natural capital. And so now, all of a sudden, our students are involved in the midst of these debates where people are pushing back. And it's interesting to see how they can combat that. So this critical thinking notion is challenging assumptions, how people are going to challenge your assumption. And that's a large part of our, and then the online technologies we completely failed at. Wake Forest does not play nice online. And you gotta have them here, I might have to have a whole different faculty group just to get this accomplished. I'm serious, it's been a battle. So we'll see. I just want to end up with a couple different things. Again, the themes I talked about. The other thing we learned from the marketplace is we can't place our students very well with just a master's, especially the younger they are, the harder it is to place them in a sustainability job if they have a master's in sustainability. So we've come up with this notion of stackable certifications. And what we've done is there's some that are out there in the market now. LEED, you get GIS, you can get Six Sigma, you name it. There are these that students can access. And then we're kind of trying to put together some. So we're going to have a leadership certificate once we get this model finished. And this is something that they can stack up on their resumes to show, I can do stuff. I can do something. I don't just have a philosophy the way some people, hiring managers, think about it. I can really actually accomplish things. And a lot of it, LCA, life cycle analysis, is real popular now. And we're doing a lot with that. GIS is gold. Geographical information systems, about how to map place. Everything happens in a place, right? So how do you map it? How do you take it into account? And then how do you put economic values or use it for any kind of purpose you want to use it for? And it's an enormously capable skill. We're doing a lot with, again, natural capital valuation and the relationship to GIS. And then we have this model. We have a balanced scorecard. And our partnerships is really important. And what we do is we have 7, just picture this as a matrix. We have 7 activities and 5 core partners. And the 7 activities are, gives us money, employs our people, is a mentor, gives us a project, that type of stuff. And then we have the core partners who we think have potential to fill out all 7 activities. And so our metric then is how much of that do we realize? So if it's a 7 by 5, right, we're at about 20 over 35 right now. That's what we do. Our goal is to get a little bit, about 75%. That's what we want. We think that that's a realistic goal. So that's what we're trying to push for, and therefore we work with those partners to try to get them to do more with us because they get to know us. So that we actually have a concrete measure for doing that. And then the career focus, we put an enormous amount of resources in this. I can't tell you how much money we spend on this. I don't want to say we spend more than the faculty because everybody who teaches in our program is overloaded. Okay? I don't have a dedicated faculty in the center. So I bring in all the faculty, mostly from Wake Forest. We use some outside people. And so, quite frankly, it's a great margins. I mean, I don't have to pay for research. All departments do it. So the margins are pretty good. So I got some good money there, but I probably spend almost as much as I do on faculty on career services. And it's enormous. And it's, again, leadership, it's projects, it's internships, it's getting their skills up to speed, and actually being able to articulate what you know. That's been really a challenge for us. Students are really good, but it's talking about it is sometimes a challenge for them. And so that's been a real focus. So I just want to stop with 2 slides that I used before, but and it actually permeates a lot of what we talk about, is the human activities with the highest environmental impact have been embraced unnecessarily. And so we spend, I'd say, the entire program talking about, in every case, alternatives exist to meet similar needs, causing far less environmental damage. And so you students, if you're as good as you think you are, ought to be able to invent those ways. And so they want to start a business, fine, let's figure this out. But let's think about how we can get alternative ways of acting. So in there, again, I say I have a lot on natural capital and how you can incorporate it into accounting and into ops and things of that sort. But I want to get your questions and get your comments and concerns and